Hi everyone, it's Lisa Ann Watkins here, the artist behind Animal Art by Law. Today's hints and tips video is going to be showing you two methods that you can use grids and lines alongside your reference image and your current work in progress to check your alignment and ratios and proportions are all in place before you move on to your next work in progress stage. Okay, hope you enjoy it and thank you. Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm starting doing my intros on my videos and I'll try and keep up that little habit. So today's hints and tips videos is basically about using guidelines on your works in progress picture and doing a comparison with the same guidelines over your reference image. And the whole point of this is just another way of, when we draw, we tend to guess where our lines go down. So our eyes tell our brain, or our brain tell our, our eyes feed to our brain feeds to our hand and our pencil, where we're putting certain marks down when we lay out our line drawings, when we're drawing in features, when we're joining all those dots and lines up. So we can use different techniques. There's traditional techniques like, just simply holding a pencil up and measuring, putting straight edges down on your reference image and your drawings. And this is simply showing you a couple of ways that you can digitally use a couple of tools online. So if you haven't got those tools, I've used a free app called BeFunky and another free program called GIMP. You could use Photoshop or any other similar sort of photo collage app, or even Paint. You can draw lines with Paint and then just transfer those over. For those of you on my Patreon, I will be supplying a free version of the triangular line image on a transparent background, so that will be available for you guys to download. And to be honest, then I think all you'd need to do, you might need to just change the colour of it. Change the colour of the lines. I could do another one for you, so you've got black lines on this one and the other one will have white lines on, so I'll do a couple of versions for you to download. But yeah, both techniques I'm about to show you should make a huge difference, and then it's just simply down to whether you discipline yourself to actually use these techniques. And even when I'm in a rush and I'm ploughing ahead with a piece, when I sit down and go, oh, I should just stick it through the comparison app, and maybe even like after a time, your eyes, with practice and practice and practice, your eyes do tend to start to see where your faults etc. are, and you can start to see the alignment yourself. But there are still times where it's still good to use this tool, because when you've got tired eyes, tired minds, tired brain, happens more often, and the longer you're working on a piece, the more blinkered you become. So just remember that these tools are there. They're really quick to use. For the sake of 5 minutes, just to take time out and do this, using one of these methods could make a huge difference to your finished piece. So anyway, that's enough for me. Let's get on with the video, and I hope you enjoy and learn something from the two methods that I'm offering you today. Thank you. So this is the first method that I'm going to show you of how to use lines as an overlay on your work in progress and your reference photos. And it's just one of the ways that you can use lines to, as I explained in the little intro, to check your alignments, ratio, proportions, position of features, everything's correct and in the right place, and it'll really identify any tweaks that are needed. So I've gone into BeFunky, which is the free app that I've shown you before for popping your comparison pics of your reference photo and your work in progress side by side to do a spot the difference. So first of all, we're going to go into Collage Maker, because that is what we need to do first of all, is bring our reference image and our current work in progress up alongside each other. So I'm going to go in first of all, I'm going to select my flamingo, which is kind of an ongoing work in progress. It just works for this little explanation I'm trying to show you. So layout, we'll go into grid, just select a 2-block layout. I'm just going to take away that spacing around the outside. There we go. So back up to my images, I'll click autofill, which pops them in. I'm going to swap them around only because it's a personal choice. I like to have my reference photo on the left hand side. So I'm just going to adjust this down now. And that gives us good layout. Now I need to get this image to the same size as the one on the left. So I'm gonna just needs to go up a tiny bit more. There we go. So we've got both images up alongside each other and they're both approximately the same size. So I'm going to save that now. I have actually already done a version of this, so I'll just show you here. Flamingo 2 I'm going to call it, because I've already done this once and I've saved my image that we're going to be using. So now we're going to go up to the top and switch from Collage Maker over to Photo Editor. So now I'm going to go in and retrieve my master version of that flamingo side by side. There we go. Now what I've done is I've created an overlay with a transparent background. So I've created the triangular overlay. So I'm gonna just fetch that in now. So here it is, it's a triangle. And I'm going to lift over onto my reference photo first of all. Now I'm going to choose a position to place it. So what I'm going to do is look at my original image. I think if I pop it just where that neck meets there, I want a nice key point to mark it out. So then if you look at the, pull that outwards a little bit more, let's mark that point again right up on where that neck meets the body, the central point. And if you look, that diagonal line that goes up towards the top right hand corner cuts up instantly through the eye. The horizontal one goes right straight across the beak, and the downward right diagonal goes down, and it cuts through just the bottom loop of the inside of the neck there. So now what I can do is I can go over here to the left and there's a duplicate option. If I duplicate it, it will come up exactly the same size. So I've now got two. I don't need to enlarge this one at all. All I do is drag it across to exactly the same spot. And if you see there, it's telling me it's totally horizontal or lining up with the previous one on this side, the previous triangular lines on this side. So it's matched up there. So I'm going to flatten those layers now because they're both in correct position. And then I will save the image to my computer. So flamingo triangle, I'll call it. I want to save it of a decent size, so I'm just going to up it a tiny bit in size. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go to that folder, flamingo triangle, and open it up. Now we can go in, so we've got our central point. I'm hoping the cursor's showing up, I'm not sure if it is. Anyway, my cursor's over the very central point where all those lines cross. So if we can look at it on the reference pick, we can see that that diagonal, top right diagonal line going up towards the right hand corner cuts up through the eye. On my drawing, it's pretty much spot on, that placement. Now on the beak, it cuts across through the beak. I'm ignoring all the colours now at the moment because I know my scan on the right hand side is actually quite a harsh colour, and I haven't really worked any of the soft. It's just got the underpainting, so it's quite vivid. Now I can see that if I started putting in other diagonal lines here, that angle of that nostril on the right, on that beak, is slightly wrong. There's a few other little angles there that are slightly wrong. To be honest, it's looking quite good for alignment, but I can see other shapes. It's now letting me look at other shapes. I can see where that diagonal line goes down towards the bottom right hand corner. As it comes down under those two feathers that are sticking up, I can see that I've angled the inner corner, inner circle of that neck line is angled up a tiny bit. It's the distance of feathers that's showing on the reference photo is very different to what's in my drawing, and this would be very good for me to refer. I know I'm not trying to get the feathers perfect, but it will be able to pull me back on target for where all of these little feathers line up across the back. So hopefully that explains. If you had a picture that was completely out of proportion, I'll have to see if I can find another one, then you would really see, like say, where the shapes, even here going up around the back of the neck, I can see that that needs bringing out a tiny bit more on my drawing, but I know that I'm dropping in a gilded background, so I haven't actually finished the outer edge of the head and the neck, but I'll keep that in mind. But like I say, I'm quite happy that most of it is lined up quite well. Okay, so hopefully that explains that a little bit, and I will do the next one, which will show you sort of triangles and using different shapes within, rather than using this triangular grid across the top. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is another way of using lines to check your proportions, ratios, etc. This one, whereas the triangular formula that I showed you in the first part is quite orderly, I guess, in the layout of the lines. This one you can be a little more disorderly and put in more random lines, but still using the same principle. So I'm going to go up and open that master collage picture of our two flamingos side by side. And here I can choose where to put the lines. So again, you want them cutting through. So I'd say 3 lines cutting through, whereas the other one was, you know, sort of straight up and down and diagonals to each corner. This one you can choose where you want them to go. So I'm just going to make my brush size approximately 4. Colour's going to be turquoise. I want the line coming up through that eye and cutting through some of the features. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. It's going to be a transparent layer over the top. This is how we're going to draw our lines. We've got our base layer of our reference photo, our comparison pics. Now I'm going to start putting in these lines. So I want a line that cuts down through the eye and right down across the body. So I'm going to start up here, mark a point, and then my line is going to come straight down through the body, say to the bottom of that feather there. There we go. You can see there that line's gone through the eye, hits that point at the back of the neck where the neck and the body meet, right to the bottom of that feather there. So the next line I want to put in, again I think I'll have it dissecting through where the neck meets that body. So let's pop the starting point there, and we'll take it down along this line here out to the other side of the lower neck. Okay, and then that'll give us a really good insight into the lines. It's very similar to that diagonal line we had earlier on. So now I'm going to do one more, and again I'm going to cut down through the eye. So I'm going to go above the eye here and pull it straight down to these feathers below there. Now that gives us a lovely triangle right in the centre to check all those little fiddly little bits, make sure they're in alignment. But then you can add more lines if you want to. You can put another one that cuts through the centre there. Hasn't shown up greatly, that one. But again, then you can start to see how much there is above and below that line where the beak is. So once we've got our lines in place, obviously wherever you want them to be, we just need to, we've got these images both the same size, remember? So we need to just make a copy of this layer. So I'm going to copy, and then I am going to paste, and then I want to move that set of lines over here. And if we remember, we know that the eye and the where it meets that neck is pretty much spot on, so that is where we are going to place it. And I'm just going to anchor those layers. So there we go. We've got them fixed down now. So again, you can start to go in. I can look now, that sort of horizontal line that I put in, cutting through the beak, I can see that it needs more of the blackness of the beak above that line. I can see that the little shape at the back of the beak needs rounding off a bit more. You can just start looking, you can see angles. The bottom part, the beak on the left hand side as well needs a little bit more depth there. Again, the angle that I know I put in the curl of the neck, right in the centre, that is quite a way out, a different shape. I know I did curl it quite a lot more, but you should get the idea there. If I export that as flamingo, if I can spell, flamingo second triangle. And we'll just export that into the same folder. It's not wanting to export. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can go back into that folder then and open up Flamingo second triangle. Open up to full size. Again, you can zoom in a little bit if you want and start really looking closely where you need your tweaks, change your angles. If you want to add more lines, you can go back in and add more lines. And here I can see the tiny bits of alignment that are out, but it is those tiny bits of alignment. Once you've gotten your angles, again, that nostril needs to be took up slightly more vertical than how I've got it. So again, a great tool. You can control this as much as you want to by putting the lines in where you want, cutting through different sections. So it's great. Use your comparison tool for your highlights, your shadows, your colours, and also your alignment. So hopefully that helps. And there is another way of doing that, this whole process, and that is to have your lines, your grids, on acetate. And again, you can have them pre-printed onto a clear piece of acetate, 2 copies, lay one over your image and one reference image and one over your work in progress, or you can draw lines on with a wipeable pen, erasable pen, and do 2 copies and lay one again over your reference and one over your work in progress, and actually do it physically. I do have some acetate and pens. I will try to have a go and video that so you can see exactly what I mean, but hopefully that should make sense. So I hope that helps, and thank you very much for watching.